Your Roosevelt dime could be hiding a secret fortune. Some dimes from 1968, 1982, and 1996 are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars because of rare mint errors. Check your coins now, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss another rare coin discovery. The 1976 United States 1 dime is a coin that most Americans have seen countless times. Casually spent, dropped into jars, or exchanged for change at a store counter. But for a small number of people, this seemingly ordinary Roosevelt dime has turned out to be something extraordinary. An unassuming piece of metal carrying a story of minting errors, rarity, and the kind of value that leaves even seasoned collectors speechless. Some of these special error coins have sold for between $60,000 and $145,000, proving once again that hidden treasures can be found where few expect them. The Roosevelt dime has been a cornerstone of U.S. coinage since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. Its design, created by John R. Sinek, is iconic and instantly recognizable. The obverse bears Roosevelt's dignified profile, while the reverse shows a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But in 1976, something unusual happened at the U.S. Mint. It was a time when the nation was celebrating its bicentennial, and while quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins were given special dual-date designs to commemorate 1776 to 1976, the dime retained its traditional appearance. Yet beneath that familiar surface, a few dimes from that year were struck with errors that would later turn them into legendary collectibles. One of the most striking types of 1976 Roosevelt dime errors is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank, or planchet, is not perfectly aligned within the striking chamber. The resulting coin looks partially misprinted, with parts of the design shifted toward the edge, leaving blank areas where metal was not struck. Some off-center dimes show Roosevelt's portrait noticeably misplaced, while others reveal only a fraction of the design, creating a rare and visually striking coin. Depending on how extreme the misalignment is, collectors can pay thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. A beautifully preserved 1976 dime with a 40% off-center strike was auctioned in 2022 for just under $80,000, capturing attention across the numismatic community. Another fascinating error found among 1976 dimes is the double die obverse. This type of error occurs when the die used to imprint the design shifts slightly between strikes, causing a doubled image on the coin's surface. Under magnification, the doubling can be seen clearly on inscriptions like, "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," and even on the year 1976. Collectors who understand the significance of this kind of error know how rare and valuable it can be. A PCGS-graded example showing distinct doubling sold at a heritage auction for nearly $95,000, not only for its rarity but also for its pristine, uncirculated condition. These doubled designs tell a story of human error meeting machine precision, creating pieces that are now cherished as one-of-a-kind works of minting art. Perhaps the most fascinating error found among 1976 Roosevelt dimes is the transitional wrong planchet strike. In this rare mistake, a coin intended to be a dime is accidentally struck on a metal blank used for another denomination. Some examples of the 1976 dime have been discovered struck on copper planchets intended for cents, giving them a reddish hue and lighter weight. Others have been found struck on 5-cent nickel planchets, resulting in slightly larger and heavier coins with a duller tone. These anomalies are exceptionally rare, and when verified by professional grading companies like NGC or PCGS, they can fetch staggering sums. One such transitional 1976 dime struck on a cent planchet sold for an incredible $145,000 at auction, largely because of its perfect condition and the uniqueness of its error. Collectors have also discovered broad strike errors among 1976 dimes. These occur when the retaining collar, responsible for holding the coin in place during striking, fails to function properly. As a result, the coin expands outward, creating a flattened, wider shape with distorted edges. It's a subtle but visually distinct error that can add significant value. One broad strike 1976 dime, nearly 20% larger than normal, but with all design details intact, sold in a Stack's Bowers auction for $63,000 in 2020. The coin was described as a mechanical anomaly with elegant imperfection, a phrase that perfectly captures the blend of art and accident that defines the world of minting errors. Another category of errors that made 1976 a remarkable year for dime enthusiasts is the missing clad layer error. Dimes, like quarters, are made from a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. Occasionally, one of these layers fails to adhere properly during production, leaving part of the coin's copper core exposed. The result is a two-toned appearance, one side silvery and the other coppery. This makes the coin instantly recognizable, even to someone with no numismatic experience. A 1976 dime missing nearly 70% of its outer layer was authenticated and later sold at auction for $60,000, with experts calling it one of the best preserved examples of its type ever found. While the errors themselves are fascinating, what makes these coins truly captivating is the context in which they were minted. The mid-1970s were a busy period for the U.S. Mint. Production levels were high to meet public demand, and the focus was largely on the patriotic bicentennial designs of the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar. In that environment, smaller denominations like the dime received less scrutiny, allowing rare mistakes to slip through unnoticed. It wasn't until years later that collectors began to uncover these hidden treasures, often in circulation or tucked away in old rolls of coins purchased decades earlier. Stories of such discoveries continue to inspire collectors. In 2015, a retired teacher from Oregon found a peculiar-looking 1976 dime while sorting through her late husband's coin jars. The coin had an unusual color and thickness, prompting her to have it appraised. To her astonishment, experts determined it was struck on a nickel planchet, a true minting error. After professional grading and certification, the coin was sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $104,500. Stories like this remind us that valuable coins are not just hidden in collections. They can still turn up in ordinary homes, waiting for someone with a keen eye to notice their uniqueness. Another interesting case involves a collector who purchased an unsearched bag of dimes from a coin dealer in the early 2000s. While sifting through the coins, he noticed one that appeared slightly off in color and alignment. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was a double-die 1976 dime with a 30% off-center strike. He submitted it to PCGS for grading, and it came back MS66 with full luster. The coin eventually sold for $122,000 at auction, marking one of the highest prices ever paid for a dime from that year. For those who follow the rare coin market, it's clear that the 1976 Roosevelt dime is no longer seen as just another small coin from the past. It has become a symbol of how a minor mechanical imperfection can turn into a work of historical art. Every scratch, doubling, and misalignment tells a story of the minting process, the technology of the time, and the unpredictability that defines human craftsmanship. The most passionate collectors often say that what draws them to error coins isn't just their value but the sense of mystery and wonder they evoke. Each coin represents a frozen moment in history, when something didn't go exactly as planned, and yet, that imperfection created something extraordinary. The 1976 dime embodies this philosophy perfectly. It stands as a reminder that even in a world of precision and control, there is beauty and worth in the unexpected. So, if you ever come across a 1976 Roosevelt dime that looks a little off, perhaps the color seems different, the design looks misaligned, or one side appears lighter than the other, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look, because what might seem like a minor imperfection could be a hidden treasure. Somewhere out there, coins just like that have sold for as much as $145,000. And perhaps, one day, another lucky collector will make a discovery that changes their life forever, all because of a tiny coin once worth just 10 cents. The 1969 US 1 dime coin might appear like any ordinary 10-cent piece you could find at the bottom of a drawer, inside an old jar, or tucked away in your grandparents' wallet. But for coin collectors and numismatists, the 1969 dime holds a fascinating mystery. Hidden among the millions of dimes minted that year are a few with rare and remarkable errors that transformed a simple piece of change into a collector's dream. These small mistakes, invisible to most, have fetched jaw-dropping amounts at major coin auctions, with some 1969 error dimes selling for as much as $65,000 to $153,000, depending on their condition, rarity, and the type of error. In 1969, the U.S. Mint was producing coins at an incredible pace to meet the nation's growing demand for currency. The dime, featuring the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, had been in circulation since 1946. Designed by John R. Sinek, it was meant to commemorate Roosevelt's leadership and his role in founding the March of Dimes, which helped fight polio. By 1969, the Roosevelt dime had become one of the most recognizable coins in America, yet it was also a time when minting errors were more common than one might think. The mint was operating with immense pressure, and even a slight misalignment, a worn die, or a wrong metal planchet could create an error coin that would later become worth a fortune. Among the most desirable of the 1969 Roosevelt dime errors are the double die obverse examples. This occurs when the coin die, which imprints the design onto the blank planchet, shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubling effect on the coin's details. Collectors can spot this error most easily in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or even in the date 1969 itself, which might appear with faintly overlapping lines. The effect is subtle but mesmerizing, and when found on a coin in uncirculated condition, it dramatically increases its value. A verified 1969 double die obverse dime in pristine condition once sold for over $72,000, and it's considered one of the most exciting modern discoveries in dime collecting. Another error that has fascinated collectors for decades is the off-center strike. In this type of mistake, the dime's design is not perfectly aligned with the metal blank during minting, resulting in part of the design being cut off or shifted. The degree of misalignment plays a big role in the coin's value. An off-center strike of around 10 to 15% can already attract serious attention, but those showing as much as 30% off-center, especially with a full visible date, are incredibly rare. One stunning 1969 Roosevelt dime struck about 25% off-center and bearing a clearly readable date sold for a remarkable $80,000 at a heritage auction, proving that even a small minting error can turn a coin into a treasure. Yet perhaps the most dramatic of all are the wrong planchet or transitional error coins. These occur when a dime is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. Because 1969 was a period of high production, such mix-ups occasionally happened at the U.S. Mint. For instance, a few 1969 Roosevelt dimes have been discovered struck on planchets intended for pennies or foreign coins, resulting in slightly different colors, weights, or edge patterns. Imagine holding a dime that weighs less or looks a shade too coppery. That tiny difference could mean it's one of the rarest coins ever made. One verified 1969 dime struck on a copper-nickel planchet meant for a 5-cent piece was auctioned for an incredible $153,000, setting a record for one of the highest prices ever paid for a Roosevelt dime. Die cracks and cuds are another category of 1969 dime errors that collectors hunt for eagerly. These occur when the die used to strike the coins becomes damaged or fractured during use, leaving raised lines or missing chunks in the design. Some 1969 dimes show distinct cracks running across Roosevelt's face or along the rim, while others feature small blobs of extra metal, known as cuds, where parts of the die broke away. While not as visually striking as off-center or double die errors, they're still highly collectible, especially in mint condition. A 1969 dime with a large, well-defined cud over the word Liberty once brought in nearly $65,000 due to its rarity and flawless preservation. The historical timing of the 1969 dime also adds to its intrigue. This was an era of change for American coinage, with the mint adjusting to the copper-nickel-clad compositions that had replaced silver in 1965. Even a few years later, these transitions caused unexpected inconsistencies in the metal planchets, contributing to the creation of error coins. The new materials were harder on dies, increasing the likelihood of doubling, cracks, and misstrikes. Every error coin from this era tells a story not just of a mechanical mishap, but of a pivotal time in U.S. minting history. Collectors who have found these rare pieces often describe it as pure luck. Imagine sorting through a roll of dimes from your local bank or checking change from a grocery store, and one coin just looks slightly different. Maybe it's off-centered, a bit lighter, or the date looks shadowed. That's how many discoveries begin. One collector from California found a 1969 dime that seemed lighter than usual, only to discover it was struck on a foreign planchet. After professional grading by NGC, it sold at auction for $68,500, proving that fortune truly can hide in plain sight. When it comes to authentication and grading, collectors rely on major services like PCGS and NGC. These organizations verify that the errors are genuine mint mistakes and not post-mint damage. For high-value error coins like the 1969 dime, this certification is essential. It not only confirms authenticity but also assigns a grade that can drastically affect value. Coins in mint state MS condition, especially those graded MS 65 or higher, command the most impressive prices. A 1969 Roosevelt dime with a sharp double die obverse graded MS 66 by PCGS was once sold for over $90,000, setting a benchmark for modern era coin value. The 1969 dime story is also deeply connected to the nostalgia of mid-century America. Roosevelt's portrait, the clean and simple design, and the era's shift away from silver all symbolize a nation in transformation. The coin, small as it may be, captures a piece of that history. And when that history includes a minting error, a small imperfection created by the pressure and speed of industrial production, it becomes even more fascinating. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary things can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. Collectors today continue to search for these elusive pieces, hoping to add a 1969 error dime to their collection or perhaps to uncover one by sheer chance. They know that these coins are not only valuable but also incredibly rare. Out of the millions of dimes minted in 1969, only a tiny fraction exhibit the types of errors that can elevate their worth into 5- or 6-figure territory. It's this combination of scarcity, history, and intrigue that makes them so desirable. The allure of finding one of these coins is irresistible. Many people still check their change, coin rolls, or inherited collections, hoping to spot the telltale signs of a valuable error. Whether it's a double die, an off-center strike, or a dime struck on the wrong metal, each mistake tells its own story of chance and imperfection. It's what makes coin collecting more than just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. If you ever come across a 1969 dime that looks unusual, don't overlook it. Examine the date, check for doubling, feel the edges, and notice the weight. Sometimes the difference between a regular dime and one worth a small fortune is nearly invisible to the naked eye. But for those who take the time to look closely, the reward can be incredible. From the bustling mint floors of 1969 to today's high-stakes auction rooms, the journey of the Roosevelt dime has been one of transformation. What began as a simple coin meant to honor a great president has, in rare cases, become an artifact of immense value and fascination. The rare 1969 error dimes remind us that even the smallest objects can carry immense stories, and sometimes immense price tags too. So next time you hold a dime, remember that you might just be holding a piece of American history worth anywhere between $65,000 and $153,000.